Humans are capable of miraculous, but also extremely terrifying actions. This video is about a less-known crime which shocked the small island of Tenerife forever. A family that suffered from a deeply anchored psychosis which ultimately led to a bloody cult ritual. Warning: you're about to experience a highly graphic and very upsetting story that really took place some years ago. You will get to know how disturbed and horrible humans can be. If you tend to have weak nerves, you should probably watch it with someone together. Now let's get into the video. On 16th December 1970, a terrifying event took place that should change the small island of Tenerife forever. The 39-year-old Harald Alexander and his 16-year-old son Frank Alexander sacrificed their family in a bloody ritual that couldn't be more frightening. The mostly unknown story of the Alexander family begins in the early 50s in Hamburg, Germany. Until 1956, the Alexander family lived in a small village named Ekel near Hamburg. Harald Alexander took care of the family with his job as a mason. He was always known as quiet and never stood out. He barely drank any alcohol and was more known for being extremely religious, as well as the other family members. The family slowly got in contact with George Riehl, an older man who was the self-designated leader of the Lorber Society. Jacob Lorber had founded the religious group in the early 19th century, a severe spiritual organization that taught unflinching self-denial and upheld the belief that all non-members were basically evil. Riehl became a member of this small sect, which never numbered more than a few hundred members through the decades. Harald Alexander met Riehl in Hamburg when the elderly man was dying and nursed him through his last days. When Riehl died, Harald announced to his wife that he had inherited the mantle of the Lorber Society leadership. He also inherited a portable organ that provided musical accompaniment during the killing spree that followed later. Dagmar Alexander, who shared her husband's single-minded beliefs, accepted his self-appointed role without question. When Harald's son Frank was born in 1954, he believed that a prophecy was fulfilled and that the newborn Frank was the Messiah. As the boy grew up by his family members, his older sister Marina, his younger twin sisters Sabine and Petra, and his parents served him endlessly. When Frank was reaching his teens, he decided not to have any intentions with girls in his age, since all bodies outside of their cult are dirty. Without any doubt, his father Harald approved an incestuous relationship between Frank and his mother and sisters. Frank's younger sisters were also taught to view the activities going on within their family as entirely normal. Although they had few friends to share information with, they spoke openly at school about the ways that Dagmar and Marina were allowed to serve. As gossip spread, the police became very interested in the prophet and his family. The Alexanders, showing depressingly little faith in divine protection, rushed beyond the reach of the German police and relocated to the Canary Islands, where they set up home in a small apartment in Santa Cruz, the capital of Tenerife. Their new neighbors found the family to be a strange bunch who rarely ventured out of the apartment. The girls and Frank supported the family with low-paying jobs. The girls worked as domestics and Frank as a shipping clerk, though he kept irregular hours. Then, on 22nd December 1970, Harald and Frank Alexander appeared at the villa occupied by Dr. Walter Trenkler, asking to see 15-year-old Sabine, who worked for Trenkler as a domestic helper. The doctor found her in the kitchen preparing a meal and told her that her father and brother were on the patio waiting to see her. She went to them, and Trenkler, to his amazement and shock, heard Harald Alexander say to his daughter, "Sabine, dear, we wanted you to know at once that Frank and I have just finished killing your mother and your sisters." The girl took her father's hand and put it to her cheek, saying, "I'm sure you've done what you thought necessary." Dr. Trenkler stood in shock for a moment, staring at the Alexanders. When Harald caught Trenkler's stare, he said matter-of-factly, "Ah, you've overheard. We've killed my wife and other daughters. It was the hour of killing. The horrified physician then realized that what he'd initially thought was mud and dirt on the men's clothes was actually human blood. Even more frightening was the behavior of the Alexanders. They were calm and talked about the murders as if nothing was wrong. Trengler asked the Alexanders to wait outside and raced into the villa and called the police. The murders had not been quiet, and by the time Trengler phoned, the police had already received calls from neighbors who'd heard hellish sounds from the family's flat. Officers quickly arrived and took the Alexanders into custody. At the same time, Detective Inspector Juan Hernandez and Detective Sergeant Manuel Pereira went to the Alexander flat, accompanied by a police physician. They forced open the door and stepped into a place of carnage. All of the dishes, clothing, and papers had been smashed, broken, and torn to pieces. Everything was in shreds. The ceilings, walls, and floors of the apartment were coated with blood. In the middle of the living room were the mutilated bodies of the two daughters, 18-year-old Marina and 15-year-old Pedro. Their breasts and genitals had been hacked away and nailed to one of the walls. The older girl had been disemboweled. In the bedroom, they found the violated remains of 39-year-old Dagmar Alexander. Her breasts and sexual parts were also hacked away. Her heart had been cut out and bound on a cord before being nailed to a wall. The Alexanders at the local police station admitted to the murders. Frank Alexander said that he was in the bedroom when Dagmar entered. "I saw that mother was looking at me, and I had the feeling that it was not permitted for her to look at me in this manner. I therefore took the clothes hanger and struck her over the head. After I struck her several times, she fell over and lost consciousness. Father had gone to the living room to play the organ, and I also went there. First, I struck Marina on the head with the hanger, and after she lost consciousness, I struck Pedro. Father continued to play the organ and praise Jesus, but when I began to remove the offending parts, he came to help me." Both Frank and Harold then stated that they felt no guilt and that it was all part of their religious beliefs that women were unclean and had to be purified by killing. They claimed that their victims had been released into heaven through their murders, and they even celebrated their grisly acts by playing the organ, both taking turns, and singing hymns after slaughtering the females of their household. Psychiatrists examined the father and son and concluded that they were both unfit to stand trial. Instead, both were committed to an asylum for the criminally insane. The surviving female family member, Sabine Alexander, begged the authorities to send her to the asylum with her brother and father, but she was rejected. She was instead sent to a secure convent, a place where her wish to be isolated from the impure and devil-owned people who made up most of society could be satisfied. What Frank and Harald Alexander did is clearly terrifying, no doubts about it. But there is one thing that you should know. After years of being prisoners in the asylum, the religious father-son duo managed to escape and run away. Until this day, nobody knows where Frank and Harald Alexander are. Even more disturbing is the thought that they live between us like normal humans. Frank could observe their next victim in just this second and plan another bloody ritual without anybody knowing it. Some people believe that both got possessed by something evil after joining the Lorbeer Society cult. Others think that the terrible slaughtering was the result of a heavy psychosis. One thing is sure, as long as Frank and Harald Alexander are running around free, nobody can be 100% safe. Have you already heard about the Alexander family's horrible slaughtering, and what do you think about it? Do you believe that the bloody ritual has been a result of joining the Lorbeer Society? And do you think that the police will ever catch Frank and Harald Alexander to prevent more acts of cruelty? Share your feelings about it in the comments and let us talk about it. If you want to watch more content like this, feel free to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell. We are uploading new videos about paranormal activities and terrifying acts of humans every week.